Hi, and welcome to our first Reddit AMA. I'm here with Olav and Tarjei, the founders of Tana. How are you guys?
Good.
Thanks.
Good, good. Yes, first ever live stream. How are you feeling?
Excited.
Yes, I think that's the right word. Excited.
Yeah. We got some great questions coming in from everywhere, particularly on Reddit, obviously, where we put out the link. And our Reddit community is small but growing, and it's really exciting to see the energy there as a addition to the amazing stuff that happens in Slack and elsewhere as well. So today we're going to run through some of the questions that came in on Reddit, and I'm not sure if we'll cover them all, but we'll certainly try and get through as many as we can. And we'll do this for an hour, and anything that we don't get to, we'll cover after as well. So I might hand over to you guys, and let's get underway. I think we've got a list in Tana of some of the questions that we're going to cover already.
Great.
So let's start and get straight into it. And I might hand over to you, Olav, for the first one, which is what are the
What was the first one?
The first one was, what are the long-term plans for the future?
Yes. All right. So I think if we're going to talk about where we're going, we need to talk about why we're going there. So basically, we're on a mission to reinvent how humans, teams, and computers work together. And basically, this stems from, I guess Tarjei could say more about that, but it's basically seeing that the productivity growth has halved since 2006. We're living in a world where we have this hyperactive hive mind where we're constantly contact switching. We're checking Slack and email every 6 minutes, and we're using unmarked emails as a to-do list. We have to be in Slack to check how are there decisions being made that I have to be part of. Like, we're not getting focus work, and basically this is not good for the human mind, right? So what we believe in is actually giving you more time to do focus work, and just basically giving you mind like water. So that's what we've been striving for. Because I remember when I got my first computer, a 386, and the feeling I got when I just set up my system there, running through everything, just feeling like this was some amazing enhancement of me, right? It was actually making me more productive, and it was like capturing the things that I needed to capture. But along the way, we've created this hamster wheel, right? So basically, what we want to do is to get even closer to giving both humans and teams mind like water. Like, go to bed and know everything is captured in Tana, everything is taken care of, and everything flow to where it's supposed to be. Just relax, take it easy. So that's I guess that's kind of the vision.
Excellent. I might hand over to you now, Tarjei, for the next one.
It's sort of related to. Yeah, it's sort of related to what Olav was saying, and I've actually lumped together 4 questions here. I'll try to cover most of them, but start with there's a question on, after all the excitement of AI and commands, there's been a big focus on making Tana easy and beautiful. And an update on that is internally we try to use Tana. Obviously, we use it for everything, and I think we'll get back to that. But the thing that we realized, and we also see this in our statistics of who is being retained as users and actually being very active, is the people that are using the mobile phone together with the web app, but especially the people that are using mobile and AI. So our goal is obviously to get everyone to use Tana, not just the people that are used to outliners and taking notes regularly. So the flow that we really want to optimize for is that capture your notes from anywhere, be it your phone, using voice, emails from web clippers and whatnot. Get this stuff into Tana, everything that you care about, and have it flow to where it actually needs to be dealt with. If it's a to-do item, or the way we typically do it is that things that are meeting agenda items, I can just when I'm on a walk and I understand that I need to bring up, say, summer vacation planning and ensuring we have enough stuff, I can just talk to my phone. It flows directly into the next management meeting, and we can discuss it there, and we know that everything is covered. But there's a step that is missing from that we are working on, which is being able to question your graph. So only yesterday I was wondering, like, what does the actual vacation plan look like going forward? And I could just ask Tana, say, who's on vacation? And it shows me a beautiful calendar view of everyone who's on vacation. And for those of you who know what Tana is, it's a simple vacation tag that has a date field, who's actually on vacation. And it's a beautiful setup. So in terms of what's next for this is to take all the stuff that we can do that is super powerful and saves me not only time, but a great deal of frustration, and give it to everyone. So it says, the next question is, what would you like Tana to be when it's launched as a non-early access version? And that's exactly that. So being able to turn on AI, launching the Android app, as we'll talk more about later, and having everyone experience the power of just wherever you are, in front of you, email, in front of your phone, whatever, just talk to Tana, just get things into Tana and see how it flows automatically. We're investing a lot in the early user experience on how to set up tags and auto-suggesting tags for you using AI, making it easier to switch views and save multiple views. I think everyone is going to love all the stuff that we're coming out with, but we definitively would like to see new users experience what all of you capable people are experiencing without having to go through and learn all the stuff. So, and that ties into the next question, which is, what is the highlight and particular highlight of the past year if we're in June 2024? And I think it would be, we've launched publicly. We have finally gotten the public to understand the power. If you have a knowledge graph, which is super hard to write a UX for, but it actually feels like the next generation of how you manage information. And it's not in silos of documents or pages that are a bunch of words that really have data in it, but they're sort of covered. And that's also ties into the last question that I'll address in this bulk, which is what's the best way to explain Tana to someone who isn't well versed in the software space Tana is? Well, I think, as you all know, if you're used to tools for thought and outline editors, Tana is easier to explain. And I do think it's also hard to explain concepts like Excel or even maybe programming on a detailed level that people really understand what it is. So therefore, I think we can zoom out and just say, well, Tana, when we launch all the stuff that we're working on in the final version, just save your stuff. It's all getting organized. You're never going to have to be afraid that you won't remember something in time. And you can always find your data and your notes. So imagine what it would be like if you had ChatGPT on all your data. And wherever you are, you can just put the data in and you're sure that you can find it again. So I think that's the easier way to explain what Tana really is.
Excellent. Let's move now to some personal reflections. There were some great questions on Reddit asking about your own use of Tana and the things that stand out. So Olav, I might go over to you. What is your personal favorite Tana feature and why?
That's like saying which child is your favorite. That's too hard actually. But I can I do two? Like, okay, let's do use case instead, because I have to say the super tag and the live search. It's just so groundbreaking for me in my brain, at least. Like, I get up every morning. I just like now with Tana Capture, I just write down the things I have to do or talk to Tana Capture while driving. And when I get to work, it's just having it tagged and just knowing that it's going to end up where it's supposed to end up. It's just, for me at least, it gives me this calm that I know that this bug is in the bug board, or this agenda point that I just realized I had to put in on a Wednesday it's captured and it shows up on the meeting we're going to have, the management meeting next Monday. So I don't have to like sit there Sunday evening and make an agenda, because I have the super tag. I can just fill in the data if I need to fill in data super quick, like turn it on into an object, and it just flows to the agenda. It's just knowing that stuff is captured. It's great. And I think that was when I was using is just the individual use when we started out was basically, I remember that the using the outliner and having the panels when I had meetings, like that was really powerful. But it's like the super tag and the live search is so freaking powerful when you're collaborating with others. Just ask my wife. The to-do lists and the stuff, it's forever filling. It's never stopping, just because you just, oh, there's something, talk to Tana, and shoop, and everything is captured, and it's made wonders for my brain, kind of scatterbrain. Yeah.
Tarjei, I might ask you the same question if you don't mind. What stands out to you, to Tana? Obviously, you know Tana incredibly well across all its features, but are there, and probably similarly, hard to pick out a favorite, but are there ones that really resonate with you?
Yeah, it's sort of the same alley as Olav was talking about, but the using today just as a scratch pad, just not worrying about having to structure things and have things flow where they are. I think that's the most beautiful thing. But also as a software engineer, I really like the fact that I can set up workflows with the AI and commands. There's stuff that is a little bit more advanced that I don't think it necessarily. It's the time saving that that I like. It's more the frustration. I don't have to copy and paste. I don't have to context switch. Wherever I am in my graph, I know that if I send something somewhere, and by send I mean just tag it, it ends up not only going where it needs to be, but also we do a lot of asynchronous work in Tana, and that helps quite a lot with how we run meetings and things like that, where people can prepare in advance. If I have, actually, one of the things we could talk about more in the next question that comes up, how you can work on your phone where you're not in front of your computer.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, well, let's go across to some of the things that are kind of feature requests or ideas about particular features, and then we might get back to some of those other big ones as well. So just let's rattle through these. When can we expect an Android app out?
It's already out for individual testers in a test pilot channel in Slack. So if you really want to test it, you have to be able to download and use install an APK from the binary file. Reach out to Matt or me on DM, and we'll add you to that channel. And yeah, so hopefully August, we'll see, but we're doing it as fast as we can.
Yeah. And can you explain why there was a delta or difference between the iOS and the Android in terms of release? I know internally that there was no difference, right? But it kind of looked like that externally.
It's just a matter of, we have a limited amount of people, of course, and developers, and it's the same people that are doing both Android and iOS. We built it using React Native and a few native components as well, with the intent of doing both releases, but we just saw that it was we didn't have time, so we rather get one out before the other. And iOS is if you look at the number of people that sign up to Tana, it's a quite big majority, so we thought we'd just do that first. But it's not like we're prioritizing one over the other. In fact, going forward, we will likely treat them as the same thing once we have them both out.
Excellent. And related to mobile, what about a full mobile app where you can kind of access your workspace or graph on your phone?
Yeah, so I don't think it's possible to create a stellar user experience with a full mobile app, in the sense that you can have all the views that you have in the Tana desktop version, all the features and whatnot. So what we will do is to create a way for you to get your data on the phone. Obviously, that's like number one, being able to search, being able to have your shopping list or whatever, the to-dos and everything on the phone. So that will be the first goal, and that's something we want to do as quickly as we can. There has been some challenges for us to. We started with a backend that made it harder to create a read API for Tana. And now we've implemented a completely brand new backend, and which makes this much easier. But there's also other user patterns that we want to cater to. Like one of the things that we have, I have on my phone is an experimental thing, but where I can send certain things to, you probably don't see it because of the focus thing here, but I can send things to my phone where I ask it to, this is like work cards. So for instance, one of the things I can do with AI is like, if I get an email that I really contemplate working on, I can send it to the phone, and the card actually has some built-in logic that here's the email, my response, which I can walk and talk and just say, oh yeah, I think this and I think that, whatever. And we can get AI to match up the original email that I'm trying to respond to with my response. And so there's patterns like that. I think when people first asked us about a mobile app, we actually had a full-blown mobile app, but the user experience was terrible. And I think you'd rather want to have a beautiful user experience that helps you do the things you really want to do, rather than a full-blown app where it's like tiny configuring of views and creating commands and all the advanced stuff that you can do. So again, the first version will be a beautiful experience of how to get stuff out of Tana. And like I said before, being able to ask questions from your graph instead of going and creating a live query. How would you feel if you just said, like I said before, just show me everything me and Matt talked about we should do that I still haven't done, and just get it on your phone or in the graph itself. So that's coming hopefully in Q3. At least that's our goal, to get that out in September or so. We will see how far we can get.
Excellent.
And just
yeah,
I just want to add one thing to that, and that is that this, and I see that we're going to talk about it later, but this is kind of the way we want to work with the working with problems and challenges, not actually like working with feature requests, right? Mm-hmm. We've seen all of the outline mobile apps that's out there, and that's more of we're giving people a feature that they expect instead of finding a way that can 10x their use of Tana on their mobile phone, right? So that's what Tarjei is talking about. Yeah.
Excellent. What about graph view? We get some questions on that. That's come out. K and D was a user who put that out. Any ideas on that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see there's multiple of these like tiny feature requests. I'll do 3 of them now, just
okay.
Rapid order.
Perfect.
Yeah, graph view. Some users have created some amazing. I can't remember. Maybe you, Matt, remember who did the 3D one?
Yes, Brett. It was.
Yeah, that was freaking amazing. So we have some experimental views for that ourselves, and again, it's a priority matter. It's easy for us to put out something that works halfway decent, but we really want to make sure that if we put it out, it actually works really well. And that's the reason behind, like, we have a lot of features that are not in the shape we want them to be already, and we're kind of accruing both technical and functional depth. So that's why we haven't launched it. But yeah, it's definitely beautiful and fun to watch. The thing that we have struggled with, to be completely honest, is like the actual usefulness. I know there are some people that get really a lot of value out of GraphView, but it's a matter of priority. So put your votes in if you really like it. Put it on IDs.tana.inc, and it's definitely possible for us to do it. It's not super hard, but we want to make it proper. And also in terms of graph, you could also think about charts. It's the same thing. We have some chart functionality that is really works well. but it's taking it to the final like 100% requires a lot of effort. And the same thing goes for the two other requests, like PDF support, annotation support. It's not hard to do in a sense, but it's hard to do really, really well, because one thing is just to do annotations, but ideally it should map onto what other capabilities Tana has. So it's not on the immediate priority map, but again, upload it, and that's your way to kind of say that this is important to me. And as to the question on formatting of blocks and text and long form writing, it's an intricate question, because the key strength to Tana is that everything is a knowledge graph, everything is connected, everything is a node, and that gives us immense power. As soon as you go into the territory of being able, there's two questions wrapped in one here, because one is like formatting alone, which is not that difficult to do, and something that we have some, as you already know, we have some of. And there's a question on publish later, we can talk about that enables you to actually take whatever you're writing and get it out into something that looks beautiful. But the other part, where if you're writing long sentences, it's harder for the graph to actually be a proper graph. So we want to make sure that when we do that, it's still a graph. Because you can imagine if you write a long sentence or maybe a long paragraph, and you're writing a book or whatever, and you have a character in there, you do still want to have that to be a character. And so you need some way to break it down into a graph as well. So even though it sounds super easy to just have like a page format or a block format, and we could do that quite easily, but we still would break a lot of the things that are key and unique to Tana. So again, it's something that we will prioritize at some point, and it's super hard to make it really, really good, and that's why we haven't dealt with it so far. But it is important. I hear this is one of the most top requested features, so we will get to it at some point.
Excellent. And I guess this might be a nice time to talk more generally about product and feature requests and the process. I think Adam sent a question in. Let me read it out. As a company, how do you balance the priorities and needs of what your vision is for the product and what your internal roadmap is, with the priorities, needs, and requests coming in from a heterogeneous user base? There's a few different questions in. Let's start there. How do you what is the trade-offs that you make between an internal roadmap and kind of the great community that we have, are full of ideas and full of energy? So how do you harness that process as well? Olav, perhaps start with you.
Yeah, so we really early on, we decided we wanted to build Tana together with the community. And we wanted to have really close-knit feedback loops. We have a vision, like we talked about, on where we're going. And we really want to understand the problems and the challenges that the users have. So there's a couple of things. Like we started out, we onboarded the 200 first people to Tana, Tarjei and me. We did them like one-on-ones, like white glove onboarding. And the first of them, like when we launched our pre-alpha, like our prototype, we actually didn't have support for mouse. So you can just imagine me sitting there like this. Oh no, you didn't hit the, that's not the node. You need to go one back. Oh, you expanded. No, please try to. So if you click Command Shift and then you go. So we started out there, and we tried to just iterate and have these closed feedback loops. And we had our community. I think we were 50 people there. And when I was out jogging and a new user joined, I would actually get a like ping in my ear, and I was like, oh, telling them like, welcome to the community. Yeah. And that, when I started to scale, I had to stop that. But basically, our users and their challenges have been the focus for us all along. And we have some principles, like we try to do onboardings one-on-one still, or not. We don't try. We do it every week, and that's because as humans, we can unlearn, right? And relearn and learn, but we can't unexperience. So to stay beginner and remember how the users see Tana for the first time, we need to do these onboardings. So that's one, to actually feel the challenges and the problems of the platform ourselves. And we have the feedback loops that we created in the community. And as it growed, we actually had to move it out of the community and into ideas.tana.inc. So if you haven't been there, go to ideas.tana.inc. There you can read about our idea philosophy and how we try to work with problems and challenges instead of actually just feature requests. So, but we rely heavily on those feedback loops and what our users tell us about their problems. So basically, I actually have a list here. What did we do in Q1? We launched dockable, scrollable panels because that solved some of the context switching, right? We launched templates because it was easier for people to get started fast. We launched our calendar view because that's what was an important feature to actually have the oversight of everything you're doing and actually get to plan so that you could be more efficient. We had the Tana AI for builders. We did Tana Capture, the mobile app, because people wanted to capture their ideas on the fly and they're not always in front of their computers. We did the help center searches. We started the Tana Ambassador program, the Tana Navigators program. We had the new in-app bug process. We did a lot of things, and it's basically it's only based on our users or Tanarians' challenges and what they present to us. So we're building in public together with our community, and they have a huge influence on our roadmap. And basically that's kind of hard too, right? Because you know that it would be easy to do some of the quick things just to get it out there, but we really believe in doing the Tana way, like saying, yes, this is how others have done it, but is this the best way to do it? And then we try to actually look at the problem one more time and say, okay, so what can we do? We have the graph, we have the super tags, we have the live searches. Can we actually solve this in another way? So I think that is, and what we're doing now, like we have the Easy and Beautiful project. That's actually this week, we're gonna, fingers crossed, you're gonna see the first iteration of one of the changes there. Hopefully we're doing something tomorrow, but basically that's trying to work with getting down the learning curve, jumping into Tana. I thought that was part of the question, yeah. And but for this summer, we actually we're working on something we call the summer of bugs, because there's bugs and what we call WTFs, that are things that's not working, but it's not the code that's broken, that we need to do, because we believe that you have to deserve to make new features, right? You have to deserve to actually work more on new stuff in your product. And for the next month, it's all hands on deck on the summer of bugs. Has a nice ring to it. Summer
it does, bugs. Yes. Probably not for the devs. We're gonna be grinding away.
Yeah, but maybe Matt, you could say a bit about how we're working on that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess I see that firsthand, like the interface between the community and what goes into the team, and obviously ideas.tana is part of that. All the submissions on ideas.tana end up in the Tana graph and map to eventually the feature map, which is kind of the feature set of Tana as the devs will be working on them. So the goal is to get individual submissions linked to the actual features that the team are working on in the context of when they are seeing things and doing the work, they're seeing the ideas that matter. So that's really important to reflect some of the stuff you said earlier. The same thing with bugs and bugs tracking that we do. Obviously, Intercom is a big part of that at the moment, or our in-app bug process. The goal, I think, hopefully sooner rather than later, is to do that all in Tana. But for now, it's using a chat interface that allows people to kind of record their bugs. And then our job is to pass them, to look through them, make sure they're not duplicates, or they're not WTFs where people think it's a bug, rightfully sometimes, and it's actually not a bug. It's not working the way it should. And then the team are really responsive to those. So we bring them into the team workspace, and again, similarly to the feature map, they all get applied to a particular tag and field where they will show up when devs are doing the work. And the summer of bugs is the kind of next step of that, where it's like the whole engineering team with you guys have kind of worked out the priorities based on the stuff that happens in the community and the bugs that show up, as well as our own understanding of Tana in a deep way, and really prioritize the bugs that need to be done. And I'm not sure what it really means, if people are going to be working outside in the summertime on their bugs, or is it just a kind of like a bit of a sprint? But certainly it is clearly a priority for us. So yeah, hopefully that helps.
Yeah, one thing I just add, like I want to change what I said about my favorite feature. It's the community.
Amazing, yes.
Just because we see the community as our biggest feature. Like that's where we get all of our feedback. That's where people can learn ways to both use Tana, but also like things that can be life-changing, like the using of saddle custom or other stuff. So that's also why we want our devs to actually spend the amount of time, and we want everyone in Tana to spend the amount of time they do in the community. It's the first thing we look at when we wake up, and it's the last thing I look at when I get to bed. And that's the truth. Like before bed, I check the introduction channel, not the question and bugs. And in the morning I check the bugs. Like, and that's just amazing, seeing all of these people around the globe like going in here and just knowing that hopefully we're giving them mind like water, slowly but surely. I had to add that.
No, amazing. Yes, feel the same. And shout out to all the people who very actively submit bugs and really help us on that front as well. It really does help us and helps the engineering team over time really see the priorities as much as your feedback. So perfect. Let's move more generally. We're kind of halfway through with time. So let's Uber Geek 82 has asked this one. I might hand it to you, Tarjei, which is about what did you use for personal knowledge management before Tana? So quite a personal question about your own PKM use.
Yeah. Well, it might be an opportunity to squeeze in a little bit of an origin story, because I think both Grim and me have a history of actually building these like hobby knowledge management systems all the way. I've dug up some old screenshots from the first knowledge graph thing that I created back in '99. It was not really a knowledge graph, but it was a very simple tool where I had a calendar that I created just using forms and notes and to-dos and whatnot, all that sort of stuff. And I know Grim created similar things. I also created like a listing tool that sort of looks like what the bare bones of Tana is as well. And I met Grim and me both worked at Google in 2011, and he was working on the Google Wave project, which sort of tried to solve the same problem that Tana is trying to solve. And I remember discussing him. This was right after Google Wave was canceled, and he had this long standing dream of creating something in between a spreadsheet and a database. How could you get the flexibility of a spreadsheet with the power and structure and scalability of a database? And we talked about this for lengths. We dug up some emails. This was back in 2011 and 2012. There's a whole mail thread about this, and I showed him what I've created, and he showed me what he's created. And he left Google, and we reconnected at another company, a hardware company that we both were at for a while. And during the way, I've tried many different tools, all of the ones that you can think of, and I always found that they were either they're like flexible in the sense that you can just use a Word doc or a bullet list in some of the tools that offer that, or the rigidity and structure of some of the tools that are out there that sort of, if you are going to take the full power of them, you actually have to learn all the features and whatnot. And I'm more of a type of person that wants to get the job done rather than nerding out on a tool to get the job done. So that's why I've been a nomad. I've been using all types of tools, but it goes back to being an unsolved problem all the way until Tana, which is funny because Olav is sort of like the reason why we decided to go for Tana, because the three of us came together and decided we want to do something together, and we're actually researching ways to make teaching students and whatnot better. And we were using a prototype that Graham had created, which is basically what Tana is today, as a way to capture notes from all of our research, talking to teachers and students and whatnot. And Ola's, even though he's used similar tools, is like, this is amazing. Why don't we just do this as an idea? And that's basically how we got started. I think you're muted, or
Yep.
I can't.
Yep. Sorry, my camera's overheating, so apologies if
that's what happens when you live in Australia. Then
yes, exactly.
your camera
In the winter.
Here in Norway, cameras
red
freeze.
too. Yeah, that's right. Okay, cool. So we've got a few more feature questions, and they come out a lot. So what about things like full external backup? And I might actually put a few of these together. Full external backup, encryption, and offline mode too. What are your thoughts on these three?
Okay. So the full external backup, you might know this, but you can go into your workspace and create a backup from your entire graph using it's already there today. When it comes to import, we don't have that, but if you're in a pinch, we can help you out with that. Our goal is to have no data loss whatsoever, and data loss to like 99% of the people that reports data loss is usually due to how you thought you did something and you actually deleted not the reference and whatnot. There's multiple ways you can get into a state where you appear to have data loss. So that is extremely important to us. That said, it's not difficult for us to both be able to export and import your entire graph or even all your graphs, but there's some other questions like both privacy and what if you're in a shared graph, should you be able to download your entire company? And maybe you probably shouldn't. So there are some usability questions around it, but there's nothing stopping us technically from doing it. So again, use IDs to vote your opinion. And also, like Olav said, we are really bad at taking feature requests. We're really good at taking problem requests. So give us why you really need it. And that's something that is in there. It's also just wanted to say that the way we implement Tana, the graph itself, is transactional, meaning that everything you do, we have transactions. So if something goes wrong, it is possible to spool it back to a state. It's just that it's often difficult to do it. So it requires some manual efforts on our side, but yeah. And when it comes to encryption, or actually this sort of like those two questions, I'm glad you brought them up together, encryption and offline, because those are two polar opposites. So as you know, Tana is a collaborative graph. That's also really important to us because the future, we always collaborated since the dawn of man. And with encryption, I understand for a personal graph, there's some things that you don't want to have be on our servers. But know this, that all the communication from whether you're using web or mobile or whatever is encrypted from the moment it leaves your phone over the network. It's stored in an encrypted storage at Google Cloud, which is what we're using. So everything is encrypted both in transition and at rest all the time. And we have very strict procedures on who can access data, and we never access data without letting you know in advance. You can look up our privacy philosophy online. But doing offline with encryption, both of them are difficult, because if you encrypt an entire graph, basically means the server can't know what's in your graph. So doing AI and any other things that we are doing on the back end, so we're indexing the data and to help make Tana a better product for you is gone. Like we can't do that because we can't read your data, as in not we, but the Tana servers. So it is a big sacrifice to do. One of the things we have contemplated is being able to do like encryption for certain nodes. But then again, then you could encrypt your home node and then everything is encrypted. And then we could say that it's only one node depth, so the actual string. But then again, you would probably want to have that on multiple nodes. So it's a harder problem to solve. Again, UI wise, technically it's not that difficult, but it just opens up a whole other things that you need to think about. So it is, I definitely see the use case of like, if I want to store my bank account number or anything that is sensitive data, and that's not very hard to do either. But again, it's the UI thing. So if you could tell us your use case, why would you want it? Why do you use it? Or why would you use it? Then we could, it's easier for us to do something. But I also want to say that the same security measures that both me and Grim has worked at Google, we put into Tana is the same that is put into Gmail, to Google Docs, whatever. So if you're using any of those services, I'd be curious to understand why you would be wanting encryption on things like this. Obviously, if you don't trust them either, it's also totally fair, of course. And when it comes to offline, there's also two different ways to think about offline. It's offline as in local, and then it goes back to the privacy concern. So Tana is and will always be a collaborative graph. If it's for the backup part, that's something that is solvable. If it's for being able to work on a plane and make sure your nodes are syncing, we actually implemented support for that technically. So, but we haven't stress tested it enough that we are comfortable saying, okay, it's good to go. But it's actually sort of there in the sense of the technical stuff, but we don't allow you to edit your graph simply because we haven't. This is something that needs really meticulous testing, especially if you're doing collaborative things. So if I edit something or delete something and you're editing it. So working offline, definitely something that will be possible one day. Just running Tana locally, I don't think that's going to be a core focus for us. It might be possible to do with the backup import export thing that it's possible to do, but just the local copy, I don't think that will be a high priority for us.
Yeah, excellent. And just related to collaboration, I might just jump in with a question from Kyle in the chat. What's the team's current thought process on prioritizing product functionality versus collaboration features leading up to and after a general release? So product functionality versus collaboration. I guess Kyle's asking there about collaboration and what we plan to do with it in Tana. And I'm not sure entirely about the prioritization functionality. Kyle, feel free to add a bit more if I haven't quite got the context of that. But do you want to talk about collaboration in Tana and why you think it's going to be important and the kind of the future of that?
Yeah, I could say something that is related to, so collaboration is many things, but one of the things that I saw a question on, when are we launching publishing capabilities, which is one form of collaboration. And that's, as some of you know, we have a version of being able to publish in Tana, which is fantastic. And you can also in the future be able to publish a tag and say, hey, I want users to be able to contribute data into my graph using these tags, for instance. So that is pretty imminent. That's just, we haven't gotten around to work in or incorporate all the feedback there. But there's another level of collaboration, which is like easier being able to invite someone to a node. As you know, you can already do that with a workspace today. So that is also something that is quite high on the list of our roadmap. When we talk about collaborative features like being able to look at the history of who's done what, there's minor support there, commenting, highlighting, chatting, as you know, we have in Tana. We're aiming to push a public release as soon as we can, and that's when we see you, the users, actually not struggling as much as new users signing up today. When that's solved, teams and collaboration is going to be the major focus for us.
Yeah,
excellent, fantastic. And just talking about that open access, I'll have a question come from Ed, which was on pricing. So still thinking about $10 a month. when will it likely to be introduced, or any further thoughts from there?
Yeah, I'm glad that question came up, because I think there's been some, I can see on Twitter, there's some discussions around that, because we want everyone to have access to Tana in some form. So Tana will have a freemium tier. We think that's super important. So everyone out there, Tana will be available for free, with some limits, of course, to both features and stuff tied to everything from cloud cost to AI cost, everything. But leave this AMA remembering that we will have a freemium model, right? And hopefully, not hopefully, but looks of it, we will have a couple of tiers that's tied to if you're using some of the pro features, like we basically call them individual professionals. That will probably be around that price point. We will also try to facilitate for a great team and collaboration tier that will be tied to usage and seats, maybe. But all of this is things that we will land in probably September-ish, based on data, and we will always ask the users first. We already had a survey. If you're in our community, you probably have answered it, where we ask about a price point, and we'll try to find what's right for the users and what's right to drive Tana further on in our journey. So basically, freemium, a next step, which is for professional individuals, and then some kind of collaboration / team tier. I think that's what we know for now. You're overheating your microphone or something.
Right. Thank you. Yes. So yes, might just jump in there with one from Santiago in the chat as well. So hello again. I'm currently still using other reminders apps for specific stuff, just because I receive a notification on my phone or Mac when the time is due. Are there plans for something like this?
Yes.
Tarjei, you want to take that?
Yes, I can. And the short answer is yes. The slightly longer answer is that, as you know, Tana is accessible through the web, and web notifications when you're not on the web page is really tricky. So with the mobile app for both platforms, and also mobile, a proper application that you can download that is not based on the Chrome. By the way, if you're still using, I see from our statistics that a lot of people still use Tana just in a web app or web page. If you don't know, it's possible to install. There's an icon on the address bar where you can install an application. That's a much better experience, but we will be launching a standalone app. Once we have that, then it's possible for us to do notifications. And for those of you who had Android in the early days, or maybe even if you had like other things like Facebook or whatever, you know, the nightmare of dealing with like muting notifications on multiple platforms and all of that sort of stuff. It's coming, it's a priority, but it's harder than it sounds. But the first premise of that is actually having a client that is with you all the time, including the phone. So once we have that in place, it's much easier. And as you know, the command remind me actually doesn't really remind you. It creates a reference in the day. So you saw one thing with the calendar, with the views and everything, and then underneath there was a lot of work going into actually understanding dates as a proper concept. So we have, now that we are finishing up the mobile app and everything, now we have the foundation where we can actually do notifications. So that's definitely something we will be adding.
Yeah, and I just add to that, I think it's really important to say that we want to do it the Tana way, because you can be overwhelmed by notification, and that's what's creating the hyperactive hive mind. So we need to do this in a novel way. We need to try to understand when should you get notifications, not just when other people tells you to. It's some form of actually going from a hyperactive hive mind for a team to be a hive mind, which would be great. Yeah.
I mean, certainly I feel that with the community too. We've got so many people active in Slack. My phone's always been with Slack, so to harness that in a better way, something acute to us, right? We really would love to see it ourselves. Okay, the next one, perhaps for both of you, how does the team use Tana internally, and are there any war stories?
Yeah, I can do a quickie there, and then we can riff on this, Tarjei.
Yeah, we're also 10 minutes left, so we're
10 minutes left. Okay, then I'll do it a quick pass. So we use it for everything. We've done that from the get-go. So at the start, it was hard, dog fooding stuff, a lot of discussions. Some people going straight to the answer, other people trying to figure out the problem. We've created a ton of way for product, for feedback, for everything. But one of the great things are, like, I can do one quickie, Tarjei, from the growth team. Like, we have our weekly growth meeting, and one of the things that's there is just the auto-populated agenda through the week, which I touched on earlier, which is really good. We have our to-dos just flow into the calendar. If something takes more than 30 minutes, it's in the shared team calendar, and you just think, type, and tag, right? Now you can talk and tag. But yeah, and for my part, I have a incredible, like, I love this. I've never seen it in any other tool. Like, in my day page, I have a node called blockers. So if Matt, which is in Australia, and Faye, which is in Toronto, or Brage, which is in Olsund, or anyone that are my direct reports, if they have blockers through the day, they just tag it with blocker. So when I get up in the morning, I go into Tana and I can just open my search node and, oh, these are the blockers, and can just start removing blockers for everyone. It's freaking amazing. Sorry. Okay, Tarjei.
No, it's great, Olav, because it's the same thing with me. Like you said, we use it for absolutely everything. So we use it for meetings, hiring, fundraising, performance reviews, analysis, bug tracking, feature mapping, road mapping, everything you can imagine. Like, we only use Tana for everything, and not because that's a policy. It's just that it's easier and better. But if I were to highlight the best use cases, they're the simple ones where I can be anywhere and I can just tag things, and I know that it comes to where it needs to be. We had a new employee asking, hey, how do I put in my vacation request? And I said, just use the vacation tag. And he did. It's like, is it that simple? Yeah, it is. Because what happens is that when someone puts in a vacation request, I, like Olav said, I have my own dashboard, which my today page is sort of like a dashboard, mini dashboard, where I have a list of the vacation requests that I haven't seen yet and dealt with. And it just takes all of the like, oh, I have to log into this HR system and I have to do all of this stuff that is really frustrating because I do it once a year or whatever. It takes away all of that just by the simple thing of tags and live searches, which is amazing. But on the more like esoteric or more like impressive use cases, we've gone through quite a bit of hiring, and with AI and commands and flows, you can do really impressive things on more specific use cases. So that's something I plan to eventually create a video on how you can actually build like a hiring app. I showed it to a hiring manager, and he was like, oh my gee, they were using one of the industry leading hiring platforms, and he said, this is blowing that out of the water. And that's just created in a couple of hours using general Tana functionality, which is fantastic. I see Matt is struggling a bit.
Sorry, with the camera. Yep, still here, just cooling off. Let me hand over to you with the question about beginners. So I think a lot of beginners are overwhelmed by the capacities of the app. They often don't know where to start, but don't have the patience to get to know the app better. Templates, tutorials are useful for this. Are there any plans to refresh the template library or involve some productivity gurus?
Yes to all questions. So as I mentioned before, one of the things we really want to get new users to experience is just talk to your phone. We set up like the most used use cases like to-dos and things like that just flows to a pre-configured setup. If we find something we think should be tagged, we use AI to recommend you to create a tag, and we walk you through the process of creating that tag, introducing all the fields, so sort of like an easier onboarding experience for everyone. And that's the first goal. And then the second goal is to go from, we call it templates deliberately because it's more comparable to what you would expect from other systems. But we will create what we call apps, because with AI and commands, you are able to create really, really powerful AI-powered applications for anything. And some of the community members have done this already. And we definitely want to increase the user experience of discovering them and also monetizing them and being able to install them. There are some, if you've installed a template today, you see we do a warning sometimes if you're running commands or if you're doing something external and whatnot. That's also something that we want to invest in terms of like, how can we keep track of if you use a command that actually have access to your data, all that sort of stuff. So we need to get that better before we can launch it broadly. But we expect that to be part of the experience in Tana itself, where, for instance, you can imagine if you ask your Tana graph and say, how can I do investor research or whatever, and we can recommend an app for you, and you can install it then and there. We haven't discussed this, and maybe I'm going out of line here, Olav, so maybe you have to rein me in, but I do like the fact that given that we didn't have an app store to begin with, we saw that people that are putting their hard work and knowledge into creating templates can charge for them on their own platform. And I think it was Ev who said it's like democratizing the creator economy. I really, really like that. I think it would be, we need to get to a point where it's more discoverable, as in not like free, like completely anarchy. But I really like the fact that people are able to live off of the amazing knowledge that they share through Tana. And eventually, it's also very feasible that data sets, not just applications, but data sets. Like imagine if you're curating a data set for cities or restaurants or movies or whatever, and being able to share that with others and maybe be able to charge for it, that should be possible. So yeah.
We've run out of time. We've got a few minutes left. Let's finish off with a few, perhaps a hard one to start. So which competitor app gives you the most nightmares? Let's go to Olav for that one.
Well, we don't look sideways. Like every runner knows that if you start looking sideways or backwards or whatever, it's super. It slows you down. And like if you look sideways, if you look at competitors, you're just gonna solve what they're solving their way. So we try not to do that. But what I would say is there's two things, and that is that our biggest competitors and the competitor and what's ruining our brains is basically files and folders. So our challenge is how can we actually move people from files and folders that is so ingrained in how we use the computers to actually have them understand and use the graph. Like we need to use the graph. The graph is made like our brain. Everything's connected and everything's flowing and everything's but the problem is like, and Doug Engelbart and Ted Nelson and Ellen Keyes, they've talked about this, like making the computer an extensions of the self. You're not going to get that with files and folders. So I think it's not the competitors, it's the moving of people from files and folders to the graph. And there, I think all a rising tide lifts all boats. So that's basically it. And it's kind of like, there's one annoying thing, and that is that people tell us that some platforms say they're breaking down the silos, right? But what they're doing is they're creating these micro silos. You have to go into a spot and add something in a table. You have to go into a Kanban board to add a card. So that's the biggest issue I have with some of them, is that in Tana, you just think tap and tag, everything flows. So it's not silo based, right? So it's moving people from files and folders and silos to the graph. Yeah.
Amazing. And just related to that, I guess, is talk a little bit about GPT perhaps, and like I really love Tana AI as a feature because I feel like it unlocks so much that is not possible with other GPT tools, and really shows the power of Tana. Tarjei, you want to talk about that a little? Give some context on that.
Yes, great, Matt. I think ChatGPT opened up a new paradigm for interacting with AI. We've been working on AI since day one at Tana, and of course, large language models proposes leaps and bounds of opportunities for us as well. But it's been important for us from day one to be more agnostic in terms of how you work with these models. And as you know, knowledge graphs are extremely much more capable of providing accurate, repeatable, more private, more scalable, less time-consuming and whatnot possibilities to work with LLM. So we launched AI for Builders in April to see if all our thoughts actually were like, we thought there was a lot of value to add AI to our knowledge graph. And people have done amazing things that we couldn't even comprehend was possible to do in Tana. Our next step is to take it to a product level where you don't have to be an engineer or very, very technically savvy or whatnot in order to utilize it. But also being honest about how you can use your graph without exposing it to the entire world like you would if you had a document and whatnot. So we have invested quite a lot in what they call embeddings or vector indexing, and some of our own models as well. And we believe that the future and the landscape is changing so rapidly that we need to be agnostic. We're not tied in with OpenAI or any of the other models because we want it to be free. You should be able to, even in the future, bring your own models. So we will cater to the basics, take the major use cases to make your life easier, and then you should still be able to experiment and do all the crazy stuff that you've done today. I think you're muted, Matt.
Yep, sorry. We're 3 minutes over time, so let's wrap it up. I know we've got more questions. So let's just finish with one from Ed as well, who's one of our moderators. What has been the highlight for the past 6 months? There's been so much that's happened, and if there has been a low light, perhaps reflect on that as well. And that's one to you both.
Okay, I'll do one quick highlight. Tana capture. It just saves me even more time, and it's just, yeah, and low. Could you do a highlight, Tarjei, and I'll think?
Yeah, I want to, that immediately comes to mind is the amazing community of people that are helping us so immensely, both in terms of spreading the word about Tana, giving us feedbacks, and the patience that you guys have for something that, and that's probably the low light, that we're not able to fast enough service all the great feature requests and squash all the bugs and all that sort of stuff. It's like it's a blessing for us that we have such an amazing community, and you're so kind always as well. It's just, yeah, we're extremely appreciative of that. And the low light is that there was a question about how big the team is. We've grown organically the entire time. We're now 24 people, but many of them only started a couple of months ago. So we're gearing up our pace in terms of how we can deliver stuff. And there's a lot of legacy stuff that even though we haven't really launched yet, that we want to get to a finish line where, like, publish and mobile and everything, to make it really, really solid. But then you can expect us to be full on, faster and faster and faster, releasing new stuff, fixing bugs, and making it polished as a product.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to end.
Excellent, amazing. Thank you very much to both. Great insights. Would love to do this regularly as well. Thanks to the Reddit mod team, and particularly Ed, who's really put this together. I do want to give a shout out to an upcoming event in a few hours, which is the Navigation Hour, which is Tana navigators who are running a kind of a hour workshop for anyone who wants to come along and learn more about Tana. So just happened to be scheduled on the same day, and shout out to them for all their fantastic work. And we will also cover any kind of questions that we've missed. The team are on Reddit now for the next few hours, as well as we've got a tag on our names. So we'll be able to cover anything that we didn't address directly. Thanks to everyone in the chat. It's been fantastic to see all the energy in the chat as well. Sorry we didn't get to all of the questions. Yes, message redacted was a common one. Thank you, Abraham.
Redacted is coming tomorrow.
All right, there you go. Final tip. All right, thank you to you both. Let's end it now and let's do the next one soon.
Thanks, Matt, and thanks for everyone dialing in. Bye.
Thank you.